All right, guys, it's recording, and we're back. Hey, it's your host, Darren Carter, the party starter, and I'm with two Mikes.
Yay, I'm Mike Black.
I'm Mike Pye.
Now, Mike Pye, let me ask you a question. This is your first time on the podcast. Thank you for coming out.
Who are you?
Who are you, and why are you here? No.
Well, my credits are celebrity trainer, stand-up comic, husband and dad, I guess.
Oh, that's sweet. Mike Pye, I know you as, is it Mike Pye, P-I?
Yes.
And is that your real last name, or is that short?
No, my last name is Piacentino. So everyone called me Pye because no one could actually pronounce my last name growing up.
You're Italian, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Dude, and you're muscular. And you know what? Have you ever noticed Italians, they just seem extra muscular? Like, I do the weights...
I have not noticed that. I have not.
No, I feel like Italians,
That's not a thing.
I feel like...
It is
though, right?
Yeah.
You know what? He knows what I'm talking about.
I don't
Oddly
think
more
it is.
muscular than
Yeah,
other,
like I feel
other
like...
groups of whites.
Amongst white people.
Yeah. Like if you took a guy like me, like I don't know what I am, German, Scotch, Irish, English, I don't know, just whatever. That's what I've been told. And you take, and then you take an Italian guy and you said, let's say neither one of us worked out or whatever, then you said, all right, we'll see you guys in like 6 months. I feel like the Italian, like the biceps are going to start down there and be all like buffed, and mine are like, I got calves that show up. My calves look good, but...
Yeah.
So that is
Italian
a thing.
genetics lean to muscularity.
Damn.
Usually. I mean, there's the rare exception. You get a scrawny guinea, but
you get a Danny DeVito.
well, he's still probably pretty muscular. He just doesn't have much height, which I don't either.
Short, swarthy musculature.
That was a thing that I noticed when I was a kid. You'd see like these bodybuilders that you thought were these giant bodybuilders, then you'd see them as an adult, you'd realize like, oh, they're actually like not as tall as you thought they were. You know, like I thought they'd be like 6'5".
What was Schwarzenegger's best friend?
Franco
Columbo. He was Italian, was he not? Yeah.
He was my chiropractor for a while.
Was he really?
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
He became a chiropractor.
Wow.
Best chiropractor I've ever seen.
But he was like bodybuilding hopeful.
Can you imagine
for
like a bodybuilding chiropractor just squashing you? Like, that just sounds incredible, man. Like,
he did a neck adjustment on me where he literally pulled my head.
Oh my gosh.
And it was the most my neck has ever cracked in my entire life. Yes.
Yeah.
He sympathized with my height. He was like, hey, I'm short too. I make you taller.
Hey, you want to be 6 feet tall?
Come back every week.
I know a guy. Yeah. Well, it's really cool to have both guests named Mike, and
is that a cool thing?
It's a first for the Pocket Party podcast.
It's hit its peak.
For the 500th episode, we have two guys named Mike.
You're never gonna believe what we have for you tonight.
You know, remember, like I'm Daryl, my other brother Daryl.
Sure.
Or Larry. I'm Larry. Is that what
That's exactly who we want to be compared to.
I'm Darren. This is my guest Mike, and my other guest Mike. Yeah.
It's awful.
The two bodybuilders from
Yeah.
No, so you guys came from a comedy show, and I said, hey, meet me at Bob's Big Boy. And
yeah, we did a show in Tarzana. It was an interesting show.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, no,
I don't want to talk bad about the show. Right. It was a fun show.
You might want to get rebooked there.
Yeah, right.
But a friend of mine,
they paid us in pizza.
Nice. A friend of mine was on that show, and he texted me, and he goes, there's 13 people here, man. This is ridiculous. And I said, dude, I texted him back. I go, because I remember what he used to say during the pandemic. I go, remember during the pandemic when there was no shows, we would kill to have 13 people.
Right.
And he goes, you know what? You're right, man.
Yeah. And by the time he got up, there was closer to like 18 or 19 people. So it really padded out,
Yeah. Nice. So while you guys were having the time of your lives, eating pizza and a few wings,
right,
and making 13 to 18 people laugh.
It was basically like a boring Chuck E. Cheese that we played,
I went to a back to school night with my wife and son.
How was that?
And it was eye opening, man. It was exciting. I was actually looking forward to going. It was open house, and there weren't that many students and parents there, but there were some.
Let me ask you, what was your favorite thing they said about your kid and the least favorite thing they said about?
Well, luckily at this level, nothing was the least favorite. You know,
at this
what I mean? Thank God. So that was because back in when he's younger, kindergarten and whatnot.
Yeah.
It was like he was kids can be rambunctious, especially little boys. They want to do things, look around, and they get excited, And in fact, we saw one of the parents, and they were saying how I don't want to say too much in case he listens, but they were just saying that his kid was really, and he's like, I didn't want to give the kid the medicine, but then so he's on the ADD medicine, but, he's bad. But I realize, man, especially now as you get older, you realize, like, that medicine is for the parents and the teachers. It's not for the children.
Yes, I agree. Yep.
Very much so.
I have an 8-year-old son, so I can relate. Yeah. You gotta let him be.
Gotta let him be, man.
Energetic and rambunctious and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And I'm sure you
find ways to channel that.
Right? You're probably a great dad. You're probably in physical fitness.
I'm horrible.
You're a horrible dad.
I am here right now.
I know.
On school night.
Yeah.
He's like, "Where's Dad?"
Tell
Daddy's
the
working. What do you
people
mean
where
by
we
working?
are, by the way.
Oh yeah, we're at a Bob's Big Boy in beautiful Burbank, beautiful downtown Burbank. Bob's Big Boy.
What's the big event that they do here all the time?
Oh, they have hot rods on the weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who's the big comic?
Hey, Jay Leno, I like to swing by and look at the vehicles. Here we got a Ford Faceva. It was built in. I don't know. I can't do Jay Leno, but yeah.
You started out pretty good.
Pretty good.
I don't know shit about cars, so I was
Somehow
like,
got much worse when you
somehow we got the Ford Starline, the Chevy Starline 1926 edition. I don't know.
Your Jay Leno turned into Jim Henson about halfway through.
Kermit the Frog next to Starbucks and the Veggie Grill. So this is a very popular Bob's Big Boy. Like I said, you could go.
It's the homeless choice here in Burbank. It's their favorite. They love it here.
Wow,
it's well lit. There's these.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, but I don't ever see any homeless people here.
Yeah, they're really good at hiding in this
good.
area.
Oh, there's one.
There's one. Ooh, there's one. Darren, get out your flashlight. Really?
No, I think they're
Damn, I actually did.
No, those people have homes. Those over there.
You're right. This is a very well lit parking lot. You are right about that.
I will say for your podcast, you do find the best parking lots to record it in.
Yeah,
I do. I've been doing that lately. It's kind of fun, man. I went to, but anyways, back to the. You go back to the high school.
The staff of Hot Topic is leaving as we speak and heading back to their cars.
So this high school, dude, we went up to like the third story. My high school had like 2 stories. I don't know if you've ever been it was a trip to go up 3 flights of stairs and you're looking down at the courtyard. Like that's a trip. Just at a high school, it was very impressive. And
I had 5 stories at my high school.
you did?
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
Philadelphia.
Oh wow.
So,
yeah, it's very
Central
urban.
High
Yeah.
of Philadelphia. So it's just, for wrestling practice, we used to have to run the stairs.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And it was brutal.
My high school had a bunch of stories.
Did it really?
Everyone in there seemed to have a story.
Had a story, see?
Teachers, students, everyone had a story.
My son, he was very excited to show us the different teachers, and they were cool. And then we went straight to his favorite teacher, and that guy's cool, man. He has guitar.
What subject does that guy teach?
He teaches English, and he had like some guitars in there, and I guess the kids can come in and play music, and he had musical. Requests and stuff on the wall, and there was a rule that said like no Taylor Swift, no country music, no, I forget, there was something else. He and I was like, man, I love country music, but it is for a specific.
He just wouldn't. He didn't want it.
Yeah,
he was like,
yeah.
no.
He was just like, nah, Or I guess you want it. Yeah, but. But it was cool though, seeing the different, and then you get to see there were some parents I hadn't seen in like 4 years, since my son was in 5th grade, and then maybe you just didn't see him in 6th grade, and then boom, the pandemic, and then
my neighborhood, when you didn't see parents, they went away somewhere.
Yeah, they moved, right?
No, they were in jail most likely.
No shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because there is some parents that we haven't seen, and we were wondering like, whatever happened? You wonder if they moved or you don't know,
incarcerated
man.
sometimes.
Wow. Maybe. You mean parents now, or you mean back when Philly?
Back in Philly, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I never really paid attention to the parents when I was a kid. Anyway, I didn't.
There was one interesting thing that happened. There was a divorced dad, right? So I saw him, and we were talking, and God, I keep remembering that people may listen to this that know. I better just move on. Okay,
Yeah,
so we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on.
This next guy was a real train wreck.
You guys just DM me if you want to know the rest of that story. the old.
Go to the Patreon. That story's on Patreon.
Yeah,
he can't afford the Patreon.
Yeah. His name rhymes with Schmobert Billingsley.
But I will say this, though. After about the third class, I told my wife, I have no desire to go back to high school at all. I mean, the first one, it took me back a little bit because, you know, he had the music playing and you're seeing, it was in English, and it was the English class. So you're seeing like this is a metaphor, this is a simile, and I'm sitting there going, oh yeah, wow, it's interesting, you know, and this is I
forgot what all these things were.
Some of it I did. Yeah. Do you remember this word? I think it's pronounced onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia.
Yeah, I knew you'd know it. That's like, do you know what that is?
I don't.
Okay, Mike knows what it is.
Know it
or can I say?
Go ahead, but I believe it's when a word sounds like what it is.
Splat.
Right.
Something like that, or zing. Yeah, that was the one that I knew. The rest were I could kind of guess.
All the Batman fighting sounds from the '60s.
Pow! Boom! Yeah. So it was interesting. Like I was watching that, going, man, I could actually, if they left me alone in this room, I would look at all the posters, and it was interesting, and I'd maybe take my phone out and snap, because I want to maybe learn some of this stuff. It was pretty cool. And then after that, we went to some very boring classes where I was like, okay, this isn't interesting. And then we went to one that looked interesting for the first 2 minutes. It was a chemistry class. I never took chemistry. Yeah. But just to be in there and see all the beakers and the different faucets looking things, and I'd ask my son, I go, what does this do? And he goes, he's like, I don't know, I never touched that. I'm like, well, what about this? What's that do? And he goes, I don't touch that, Dad. And I'm like, okay. And then I looked at the board, and the board had all the, the periodic tables or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, this is boring too. And then
see, I love that stuff.
I was a math science kid.
Oh, and then
I hated all the English.
What was your favorite element?
Uranium, I think.
I thought you were going to say Uranus or something.
No,
uranium. That's astronomy.
Yeah. I got an A in physics.
Ooh. Wow.
So much so that the teacher was like, did you cheat on this test? I'm like, no, I studied.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Did you cheat on the physics test? I'm sure some kids did.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I told you this before, because he seems like he'd be a good student, but you said you really weren't a good student.
I was a terrible student.
But you have such a great memory for things.
Yeah, that's one is exclusive from the other, I guess.
Well, I think you're probably a great student of things that you enjoy.
Right.
And a horrible student of things you don't enjoy.
Absolutely, yeah. And I didn't realize at the time that there were a lot of things when I was a kid that I was like, eventually you'll enjoy this. But right now, the way it's being presented to you sucks. And
potty training, mostly.
Absolutely, potty training. But I think it's exciting to me as I get older to see information that I found to be a kind of a dud when I was a kid being presented on something like Cosmos or Hamilton, where it's like they've taken this thing that seems very dry and stodgy and boring and repackaged it in a way that makes it very, very engaging and makes people not only want to learn about that thing, but everything around it. They start to learn that way,
Yeah.
Dude, you know what's interesting about that is when I was a kid, we were forced to go to church 3 times a week: Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. And it was very easy to...
I couldn't imagine. I could not imagine.
And it was very easy to zone out and daydream, and I'd pick up on a lot of, the vibe of it and some interesting stuff here and there. But not until I got older, even more recently, where I'm like, I'll hear somebody talk about the book of Proverbs, and I'm like, they're like, this, stay on the, they'll say a quote, and I'm like, that's in the Bible? Wow, it's interesting. This comedian of all people had a tattoo, and it had the number 8 on his elbow, and he goes, yeah, this is from Proverbs, and he described what it came from. I'm like, that's in there?
Yeah.
So that's, I think, my next thing. I want to read some of the book of Proverbs and see what's interesting in there.
Proverbs has maybe the best recipe for Thousand Island dressing that you could ask for.
Okay, I'll look for it.
You're a big ketchup guy.
I love ketchup.
Very interested in knowing.
Where'd you look? I learned that in Proverbs.
There's a whole section on.
No, it's funny.
Dips and sauces.
I got a devotional book, and what that means is, you open up to that day of the year, February 28th, whatever, and it'll give like a Bible verse, and then the author will do like a little description, and I'm like, damn, this is like a great life's instruction book. I wish I would have read this when I came to LA, and let me just tell you the one that I read 2 days ago. It said something about protect your peace. And it said in Hebrews, and it described what it said. But then the author broke it down, and they said you don't want chaos in your life. You want peace, even if it's in the home. And they were describing like if you're, if your wife is if she's preparing like a big meal for Thanksgiving and she wants to she doesn't need a bunch of kids and a husband in her way, so take the children out of the home, go shopping, go somewhere, that way she knows she has a block of time alone to work on what she needs to get done. And same thing with the guy. It's like almost like common sense.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see it like that.
Sure.
Protect your peace.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's very interesting to see it that way. Yeah.
You're always protecting your peace.
I am constantly. I've protected my peace so much that I don't have anyone to protect it.
Stay away.
But even just that phrase, man, I'm telling you, it helped me, because even today, my wife was cooking and I was asking her some questions and she was trying to listen to a podcast or something, and then I could tell.
Was it your podcast?
No, it wasn't. But
I'm getting you at both ends.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Hey, look, this is the real me, and this is my episode 77. No, she was listening to something on the radio, and then I could tell she kept hitting pause, and she was like, "What was the question?" And I was like, you know what?
He's telling you in every way possible.
Yeah. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna protect your peace. I'm like, she wants to be alone. I can say not that I didn't need, but just reading that really clarified.
You think about it a little more.
You're more aware of it.
Yeah, more aware. And I was like, no problem. And I went into the room, I closed the door, let her have her peace, and then it was great. You know what I mean? Like just
and that gives you your peace too. You get to go do a thing that you want to do instead.
Yeah.
Right.
That was my question. What are you doing to protect your peace?
I think that's it, man. Like
Not
getting out of your wife's way. That's a pretty good method.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Or even
the way of the married man.
If there's people that love to like I have a friend that used to always get in these online arguments with people.
Yeah.
I go, dude, I would tell him, protect your peace. Why would you do that? It's just so you can get notifications throughout the day of people name calling you, and then you guys let it go. I always tell them, I go, be a creator, not just a consumer. Don't just sit there and this video pissed me off, I'm going to comment. It's like, where does that get you,
Yeah. Eventually someone gets blocked. Right. And that's how you win a fight on the internet.
I protect my piece of the internet.
Right, yeah.
Oh, let me ask you guys a question about this. So they were describing the books that they read in 10th grade. And I remember we read Flowers for Algernon.
Oh, what a great story.
And I was gonna, I remember some of it, but I feel like you would know more of it than I do.
Well,
do you know Flowers for Algernon?
I think so.
Okay, yeah. The very basics of it was that this scientist found a very simple but nice, innocent sort of guy who had some sort of brain issue where he just wasn't very smart.
I think his IQ was below, if I'm going by memory.
It was very much like Forrest Gump. It
was below 100.
Below average.
Because I think we talked
quite a bit.
From what I remember, yeah.
And this guy had a breakthrough with mice where he had genetically modified them somehow, and it made their intelligence grow incrementally every day until they got genius level for mice. And he was like, I'd like to do that experiment on you. So he does it, and the guy gets smarter, he gets a better job, falls in love, finds this amazing use of his intellect, ways to optimize it and what have you. Then the scientist comes back to him and he goes, I have some bad news. We've been running tests on that mouse, and it's now slowly losing that intelligence. And so has to grapple with the fact that this great level of intellect and mental and physical and spiritual growth that he's gone through because of it is all going to slowly go away. And so he writes a few letters while he's still capable of doing it and stuff like that, but he slowly becomes dumber, essentially. And the book ends with him kind of back at square one. And it's really sad, but I think what interested me when I was a kid reading that was that I kind of knew that life is like that to some extent for everyone, where you'll hit a peak and then it'll start to erode. And so it really is, appreciate what you've got while you've got it, because especially at our age, very few things about us are going to improve from here. It's mostly things will start degrading, so just enjoy what you can while you can.
And thanks for listening, guys. No.
Yeah, really,
No, we can't. No, we're not going to end on that. But that was, it was a great story, and I just, for some reason, I remember his IQ was below 100, and then it was like, oh my gosh, it's over 100 now. Now it's 104. Wow, and then it's above average, and then it got, like you said, it got way up there, and
it was more interesting in the book. It wasn't just they were just sitting there going, oh my God, look how smart he is.
Yeah, man, that's.
It was just how high he could count. It was just like 1,000,002.
IQ is 169 or whatever.
Yeah.
It was interesting what you just said about things rising and falling, and I was thinking about this. Like, I heard this interview, and a lot of times people who were like it's about country music, so they were like talking about like these guys that were like selling out stadiums and arenas, and then somewhere along the way, with pretty much any musician, if they start to diminish, they ask themselves, what was it? The managers, the producers, everybody asked themselves, what was it where it started to turn the other way? And it'll keep them up at night, sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, earlier when we were talking, something triggered a memory of Al Pacino in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And his part is so small in that a lot of times when you mention it, people are like, oh yeah, I forgot he was in that. And 20 years ago, he was on top of the box office. He was like one of the biggest stars. And he wasn't canceled. He didn't do anything wrong. He was just, time catches up,
Yeah, it was. I was reading about, like, it was Buck Owens. I love Buck Owens, and you're probably old enough to know Buck Owens. Remember Buck Owens, the Buckaroos? You're from Philly, so maybe not.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch Hee Haw?
Yeah. Okay.
So he was one of the hosts. One of the hosts of Hee Haw.
Yeah. And one of the Haws.
No, it's Buck Owens and Roy Clark. Roy Orbison?
No, I remember Roy Clark.
Yeah. So it was, up until Hee Haw, this guy had like 20 number one hits. I mean, it was a lot of hits. And then when things started to go south, one of the things he thought was, if you just knew his music and you just would see the albums, even though he would admit that he had kind of a goofy face, but he'd slick his hair back, he'd dress real cool. So he really he was still some mystery there.
Yeah.
But he feels like, because he was on Hee Haw, wearing backwards overalls and popping out of a corner. There's no mystery left. There's like zero mystery.
Right.
And
everyone is like, I know what that guy's all about.
Yeah, he I guess according to this, he felt like, okay, that it kind of helped me in the beginning because I was on TV all the time, and it helped me sell a bunch of guitars, those red, white, and blue guitars.
Oh, yeah.
They sold all these guitars in the Sears Christmas catalog. But I guess he felt like there wasn't much mystery to him, anymore.
Yeah.
So
it does take away a lot of your mystique.
And that's part of his downfall. That's part of
what
things
he felt that way.
South.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he still had some hits later on with Dwight Yoakam, and they did some, the Streets of Bakersfield. And dude, this guy was so popular. The Beatles covered one of his songs. They covered "Act Naturally." It's that song.
Yeah.
They're gonna put me in the movies. They're gonna make a big star out of me. I'm sad and lonely, and all I gotta do is act naturally.
Yeah. That was a song.
It's funny. It's totally different now, where you have to be available and have to be like, people want to know everything about your life.
Yeah.
Even
it's
celebrities, they don't want.
Now.
Yeah, exactly. They don't want mystery anymore.
There's no such thing as your own business anymore.
Mind your own business.
Yeah, that doesn't exist. I remember, like, when they did the Star Wars prequels, I was like, well, that's kind of the end of Darth Vader. It's because they took all the mystery out of that character.
Yep.
And it's like, now that you watch it, there's an entire generation that views that character as a good guy now.
Right.
And I look at it and it's harder to watch knowing that it's like, oh, underneath all that armor and the cape and everything is basically just a dude who looks like Justin Timberlake that takes a lot out of it, Well, like, when you looked at that character in the 70s or 80s, you didn't know what was under there, and so it could be whatever you wanted, whatever terrified you essentially was under there. But now it's just some big goof, you know.
Takes the evil out.
Yeah. Well, it takes the mystery out.
Sure.
And they, ever since that movie, they've kind of been doing that. Everything needs to have an origin story, and everyone needs to know the origin story of each character, and it kind of ruins them, you know.
It's funny you said that, though, because as I was, hearing this about, Buck Owens, like, oh, I was overexposed, hee-haw, I thought about that. Like, nowadays, I know comedians are selling out tickets.
Yeah.
They're 600 seats, Brea Improv, sold out. And they've been doing comedy for, like, stand-up comedy for 2 years, 3 years.
Right.
And I would talk to these guys, and they said that it's connections with fans. It's going live a lot. When you go live, people can ask questions. You can read, hey, what's going on, Mike? How you doing? Answering their questions, talking. So the mystery, I guess they still can hold something back, but they're also making themselves way more available now,
Sure.
I mean, there's something about if you're on your phone and the person pops up and they're doing a live, if it's someone you like, it's like, wow, they're live right now? And you could interact with them or see where they're at. It's, there's something cool to that, I guess,
Yeah, because they might take their top off.
Yeah.
Something.
But think about how, like, back in the day, like, how Prince, he was always, like, he's mysterious. He doesn't really do interviews.
Yeah.
He hated the internet, from what I understand.
I think that was the way to go for, in general. If you wanted to keep people interested, it was good to keep a little bit to yourself, I don't know. Now, I guess that just doesn't work.
Yeah, you would think there's certain things that would stand the test of time. I want to get guys. If you can find this, maybe if you have a New York Times subscription, take a screenshot, send it to me. There was a comedian named Eddie Cantor, and he put out the 10 Commandments of Showbiz, and I want to read it. I heard about it. I want to read it, and I went to. The only way I could find it was the New York Times, and you have to subscribe. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to subscribe for
any money.
Well, yeah,
Not for that.
I'm not for that. Yeah, dude, there's so many things. Oh my God, people are like, hey, check this out. I'm like, well, now I got to subscribe. Everyone wants me to subscribe. Everybody wants.
Yeah.
You just be broke all the time. But just to read this one, or anyways, because I had mentioned to somebody. This a friend of mine back in the day he worked with Henny Youngman.
Sure.
Henny Youngman, for you listeners, if you're a little younger, he's the guy that say, like, take my wife, please.
Yeah, king of the one-liners.
Yeah, Henny Youngman, king of the one-liners. I called him one night. I read this newspaper article back in 1990, 91, and it said he still has his phone number in the yellow pages. So I got a hold of his number, and I called it, and he answered. And, remember, I was in the West Coast, so it must have been like 2 a.m. in New York. And that's how he answered the phone, 2 a.m. Henny Youngman, king of the one-liners. But I was like 20 and nervous. And I was like, oh, sorry, I dialed the wrong number. And he's like, not a problem. And then he, like, hung up. I should have asked him a question, man. Freaking idiot. I was so stupid, but...
That was your Henny Youngman story?
No, my Henny Youngman story. I called him. Who's the most famous person you've called, Mike?
Probably Dice.
Dice who?
Andrew Dice Clay.
Oh shit! You called him? How's he answer the phone? Does he say? Oh, hold on. Let me see. Does he? Does he answer the phone hello, or does he answer the phone just like, what is it? I picture him not saying hello.
Yeah, it's closer to the second one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like he just answers it with dice.
Dice. No, because he doesn't want to give it away if it's an accident.
Well, he knows who called him. Like,
Yeah,
he knows,
caller ID.
It was caller ID was a thing even back then. And that's probably it. And he was like, why are you calling? He's like, because you called me. I'm returning your call. Oh, okay. This is very normal.
It wasn't like Dice Clay, king of the two-liners. No. The one-liner. Anyway, so my friend worked with Henny Youngman back in the day, and he goes, do you have any advice? I'm a young comedian. I'm starting out. And he goes, never stay home for your price. And that means, like, let's say you get $1,000. And don't tell yourself, I'm only getting on stage for $1,000, because then you might only work like 6 times a year. But if you go, but if you're into it and you want to get on stage, then you'll play anywhere, and you'll get so sharp, and you'll just get better and you become a better comedian. I told this guy that I love that advice, and this guy, he goes, his name is Mark Schiff, and Mark goes, that's one of the 10 Commandments. That's Eddie Cantor's 10 Commandments of showbiz.
Oh, okay.
And I said, wow. You know, by the way, when I just said that it'll sharpen you, you know that phrase, iron sharpens iron? I guess that's in the Bible. I keep putting the mic towards Mike Black, towards the Bible.
Why would I
what are your thoughts?
I'm
Iron sharpens iron.
I'm agnostic.
Oh, damn.
The first thought. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
you know, I don't know what you want.
It was interesting, but anyways,
whoever wrote the Bible, very observant.
Let me write that down. Iron sharpens iron. But it does, right? Like if you're just a lone bodybuilder by yourself, you're going to be okay. But then if you've got
basically a barbarian, you're sort of like
but if you've got like
the land,
if you've got other bodybuilders, oh, what's that move? I'm going to do that halo thing with the kettlebell. Yeah, see? But
punching out camels and stuff, you know.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how that works. If you're a lone bodybuilder, so you're saying being in the presence of other bodybuilders makes you a better bodybuilder?
Like iron sharpens iron.
That's gotta be true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Or
it worked for
it pushes you.
Franklin Colombo, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that his name? Franco Colombo.
Colombo, actually.
I was going to say Giuseppe.
Colombo.
Giuseppe Colombo.
Yeah.
Or like if you're a comedian, you're the only comedian, and you live in like, you know,
if you live
Wichita,
in a town
Kansas.
of dullards, you're not going to be very funny.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, making them laugh is not a very high standard.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, like I remember one night at the Comedy Store, I said something to bust another comic's balls, and he responded with, really? And I was like, hold yourself to a higher standard. Come back with something better than that. That's what someone in an office would say. And he was like, Jesus. But then like 6 months later, he was like, that stuck in my head, and I was so embarrassed about it that now I really do that. So thank you for that.
Right.
And so I do believe that's true, you know.
Yeah, he's like, really? Yeah. He's like, I need to protect my peace.
Yeah,
And,
it's like you can't if you fancy yourself a professional comedian, you can't take stock catchphrases that you heard on TV and regurgitate those.
Oh yeah, there's a big.
You have to come up with your own shit.
Oh god, that's especially
or your own unique spin on shit. At least
when people just throw out, like you said, like zingers that they heard in movies or like swing or whatever, all that stuff. I remember when I was starting out, like a lot of the people that were funny, just funny people. I'm like, they're just saying stuff they heard off like The Office or this sitcom.
Yeah, they're just quoting Will Ferrell or Jim Carrey or what have you, and it's like.
And now they're quoting the internet.
Sure.
Like so and so has entered the chat or whatever. Like that's a thing you hear a lot. Or
and it's like, I don't mind a little of that, like here and there, but if that's all you've got, then you're in the wrong business.
Yeah.
You know.
Mike, let me ask Mike Pye a question now. So, where did you start your comedy?
Here in LA.
Here in LA. And how long ago did you start?
6 years ago.
Started
when I was 44.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I met you. I must have met you in around that time, huh?
Well, the first time I met you was many years prior. You did a show at my gallery with Steve Simone.
And you weren't doing comedy back then.
Wasn't even doing comedy then.
Wow.
Built a stage so you guys could do comedy and had a comedy show, but wasn't even doing comedy. But I mean, was always a fan and always loved comedy. Grew up in the '90s comedy boom, so it's always been near and dear to my heart. So you were around it
and you liked it, and then you started 6 years ago. Oh my God, that's so. And then during the pandemic, were you doing comedy then, or it was kind of hard for all of us?
Yeah, I was doing mics when there were some openings in the pandemic. I didn't do any Zooms. It was just too painful for me, and getting up on stage alone at that time was still painful. So so I just took a break. And funny enough, the first time I was ever in front of a real audience, I did a guest spot for Simone in Arizona.
Wow.
After not having done comedy for a year and a half
in
the pandemic. What's the club there?
House of
Comedy. Yeah. So I hadn't done comedy for a year and a half. Luckily, COVID had lifted, so I was able to get like 2 weeks of mics in before I went there, and I was like driving there going, oh my God, what are you doing? Like, you're going to be in front of an actual audience,
It's amazing.
And I lucked out. I did pretty well.
Were people wearing masks and stuff still at that time?
No, because it was Arizona. I think they were kind of like, middle finger to COVID.
Yeah.
They were still doing a limited audience and a spread out audience, not a lot of social distancing and whatnot. So it was probably like half capacity of what it normally could be. But but it was good. It was great.
That's amazing.
And then that was it. Just kept going.
It felt so good to get in front of people, man. I was doing I remember doing some. I did an outdoor parking lot show in May of 2020.
Yeah.
Even though everything was locked down, it was up in Ventura County. It was somebody hired me to do a church parking lot, and they're going to be in their cars, they're going to be honking their horns, they're going to be putting their headlights on, which is all those things you wouldn't normally want an audience to do if you're doing an outdoor show.
Yeah.
But the thing that made it kind of good was they had like some AstroTurf in front of the stage, and they had like maybe like 10 lawn chairs, and there was like 2 or 3 people in those chairs. So on the stage, and even though the lights are bright, I could still see like 2 or 3 people, and I knew there was people out in the cars. And
and their headlights were like the spotlight, right?
Yeah, I think they did have a real spotlight, because I remember they had our images on these screens.
Oh, okay.
But then they also had their headlights on, and I remember like it was so funny to me because there's the comedian that went on first, or the host of it. He's got like how would I describe him? He looks sort of like probably has like some Botox, the fake teeth,
yeah,
kind of handsome,
very Hollywood,
and he goes, "Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I'm married," and you hear like the beep beep, and he goes, "To a woman," and all the horns were like ooga ooga beep 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 beep. Like it cracked me up that it was overboard. Like, yay, thank God, but it was just funny because the way he carries himself, and then he knows what he's doing with that punchline.
Sure, yeah.
Like, I'm married to a woman, beep beep beep, and then
I feel like I've heard that joke, and I probably know who that host is, but don't know him by name. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah, I'll tell you off the air. I'll tell you off the air. He's like, take that microphone away from me.
He might be listening too.
Yeah. I doubt he's listening, but you never know.
It's just a very memorable, simple sort of joke.
Right. I feel like you're a detective now. Your little brain's going, oh, I know who it is. No, but so anyways, I was like, oh man, I could actually. I didn't know how long time was going to go in between shows. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, drive-ins, we could do these parking lots. And then when it just kept going on and on and on and on, and then shows got canceled and this and that, and it was like, oh my goodness, man. Yeah. I can't even imagine doing comedy for like you did, like not for like 6 years, then a big portion of it was during that time, man. That was.
Then I was doing mics in the park. Pan Pacific Park, there was a couple mics that they would run there, so you're just sitting out in the park in the the theater seating that they have there, the tiered theater seating, and you're just like screaming your jokes into the abyss of just an open park.
The abyss, that's
just like sound's not contained.
No, I know. That is definitely something we have to deal with. Even when you do sometimes you'll do a theater and there'll be like such a bright light and you don't see anything, and it is like throwing jokes into the abyss. Because I'm used to, like, as I'm sure Mike is too, we're used to connecting with people in the audience because we're playing comedy clubs.
Yeah.
And every now and then you'll jump up and do something that's out of your element with that bright light.
Or you'll do a show where just the spotlight is so strong that you can't really see anyone. Like I did one of those recently, and I was like, oh, I kind of have to do my act. And I don't... It was... In a way, it was like I used to think of doing crowd work as working without a net, and now I think of just doing my act as working without a net. If I have to just do my act and I can't connect with the crowd or can't talk to anyone or anything like that, it's like, oh, this is actually much more difficult, to just entirely rely on your jokes and on performance,
Being a physical trainer, is there 2 or 3 little bits of information you could tell our listeners, something they could start like now? Let's say their big goal was like, I'm going to start the new year, and now we're already into like almost March.
Sure.
Is there something you would tell someone to do just to kind of get their brain trained and
Well, and the biggest thing is consistency. So get into some type of fitness behavior, whether it's walking for 20 minutes 3 times to 4 times a week, whether it's doing some stretching or ab work on the floor. Get doing something regularly that's repeatable and get into the rhythm of what I call exercise behavior, and then you can expand out from there. Then once you're feeling good doing that, you can add a little bit more. Maybe you add a jog to that walk. Maybe you add some resistance training to that core workout. Maybe, you do some yoga instead of just stretching. So it's like, and then you just slowly build. And then a lot of times with all my clients, I like to allow them to kind of develop their own thing rather than me going, do it this way, only do it this way. Because it's like, there's so many different ways to get fit. And the repeatable one is the best one for you. Whatever you can repeat regularly will get you in shape over the long term for your life. And that's the whole goal, is how do we keep you in better shape for the remainder of your life?
What's your go-to, if you were to have the perfect week, like let's say you're going to do whatever you want this week. You don't have to deal with clients. It's just you and your exercise, your workouts. What's your perfect thing for that week?
Workout-wise? I mean, if I don't have anything else to do, I would get up, have some breakfast, relax a bit, and nap. This is what I used to do in my summers when I was in college.
Yeah.
I would nap again after breakfast. And then I would get up, eat another meal, maybe have a pre-workout or some caffeine, go lift weights, and then just chill for the rest of the day. So it's a lot of like heavy intensity and then nothing is the ideal scenario.
I used to love when I joined. I don't go to the boxing gym anymore, but I used to love going to the boxing gym. I loved it. When I got into it, I was like, I love this. We could go here and like, because you're, especially as an adult, you're taught like, don't put, don't slam things on the floor, don't make noise, don't punch things, don't. So I was like, I remember even asking them because they have those slam balls. I go, is it okay if I? They go, yeah, go for it. Like, because you can throw it as hard as you can against the floor. No one gives a shit. It's just, you're there to do that. I didn't know you could do that. So I loved it, like slamming this stuff, punching the bag. Then then I was like, oh, let me get better at throwing my technique, getting my technique, hip rotation and all that. And then, but I got to be honest, now I kind of don't like that crowded gym. Everything that I used to like about it, like it's a motivational movie, man. You're in there and there's these guys who are going to fight that weekend on television. Like that was really cool to see them spar. But then I just kind of went in there one day and I was just like, gosh, there's like, it's too crowded in here. There's like nowhere to put and I thought, I really enjoy these hikes out in nature, man. Like we got all these trails like between like Runyon and Griffith Park. And there's all these places. And I really enjoy taking like 2 hours if I can and just being on a trail, listening to a podcast, listening to some music. And my heart rate's going, I'm getting the exercise. And I love just getting in touch with like nature and not being around anybody.
Sure.
That's what I love.
Yeah.
You love not being around people.
I know. I really do, though.
That's like, the polite way of saying I don't like people.
Yeah. I guess I do like people, but I need to be away from them for 2 hours a day.
You're kind of like John Rambo.
Yeah.
You'd rather be up on the mountain by yourself, building traps.
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to be alone up there. Like, I do like seeing people every like 6 or 7 minutes. That'd be creepy if I was by myself up there and didn't see anybody. I'd be
months.
like, for months. I'm like, damn.
I make my own cheese.
Yeah. Yeah, because that can be a little scary where you're like, there's nobody up here. Like because occasionally you'll people will come past you and you're like, okay, I don't know, you feel safe. I don't know. Because I know there might be a mountain lion up there, but if you see another person, you're like, okay, we're safe. We're here together.
I'm faster than them.
Yeah.
That mountain lion will catch them.
The mountain lion hasn't eaten anyone yet, so.
Yeah, man. What about you, Mike? If you have your perfect day of exercise or whatever, do you exercise a little bit?
I walk a lot at. I was just spending a lot of time just cleaning my apartment was exercise.
That's good.
I lost like 70 pounds in the last year just reorganizing my apartment because I had to.
Yeah.
But now I'll go to Frank & Sons out in East LA kind of area. And it's like a big warehouse that you can walk around in. And then across the street from it is the mall where they shot all the parking lot stuff for Back to the Future. And I'll go to that mall afterwards. And at the end of it, I probably get 10,500 steps in, like just barely over the minimum. But I enjoy doing it. And it's like, it's a lot more interesting to me to walk around somewhere like that than out in the forest or whatever you do.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, there's no stores out there.
Whatever dumbass shit you're doing.
Like a zero memorabilia out there.
Making your own granola and whatnot, talking with badgers or whatever,
I know. They couple of things and then we'll get out of here. I did the road recently with a friend of mine, and everyone's different. This is what people. That's what makes the world go round, I guess. I don't know if that's in the Bible, but Mike doesn't know either.
I couldn't tell you.
Different strokes for different folks.
Might be in the Quran or
I don't know if it's in the Quran or. But so I want to know how you guys would feel about this. Like, we come out of his hotel room, and across the way. By the way, he wants me to give him a shout out because I mentioned this before.
What's his name?
Brian Swinehart.
I know Brian Swinehart.
At first, I was protecting his anonymous. I was like, I don't want to put your name out there, but I think he wants it out there because I mentioned this on the last podcast. He's like, I was the other comic. I'm the guy he's talking about. So, shout out to Brian Swinehart.
Yay!
So we come out of his room. We're working on the video. Come out of his room, and the maids were directly across the hallway, and were cleaning out the room there, and they had a pizza box, and the pizza box was open, and there was like 4 slices left, and Brian says, "Can I have that?" And then they thought he was joking or whatever, and then they handed the pizza, and then I go, "Brian, don't," and they go, "No, you're going to eat it?" And he goes, "Yeah," and then I go, "Brian, don't," and they go, and then the maids were like, "No, this is in El Paso, right?" And they were like, "No, there's somebody could spit on it or something," and I go, "Yeah, dude, what if someone put fentanyl on it?" And he goes, "Oh, you're right." And then he handed it back, and then they threw it away, but
I don't think anyone's wasting fentanyl on
a Little Caesar's pizza.
Yeah.
So here's my question. We'll start with Mike Pye.
If you were going to eat hotel room pizza.
if a stranger, number one, you're Italian. Do you like pizza?
Of course.
But you're a trainer, so
I
you
love
probably...
pizza. Well, that's the dilemma.
Yeah.
I love pizza and I love to eat, but I also like to look a certain way, so
yeah,
I'm always conflicted.
Would you, if you're in that situation, would you just keep walking, or would you think, let me grab that pizza from some strange hotel room and maybe take it back to your room and eat it?
I would never consider eating strange hotel pizza, but I would eat pizza that was mine that may have been sitting for a day or two out. I've eaten more than a day old pizza that's been sitting on a counter.
Oh yeah,
unrefrigerated, whatnot.
Wow.
And you're okay. You're okay. After that.
Yeah. I have like an iron stomach.
I did do that once.
Yeah.
I did that once where it'd been 24 hours, and I was like, it'd been sitting out, and then I put it in the fridge, and I was thinking, God, it was out for 12 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways, so you would not.
You look like that news was painful to hear.
So you would pass the stranger's pizza.
I would do the stranger's pizza,
but yeah,
old pizza that was mine for sure.
Yeah, for your own. And what about you, Mike? You open your door.
Back in college, I did that sort of thing, but as I got older and learned how germs work and whatnot, I was like, no,
You wouldn't just pick up. Yeah.
What's funny is I would never do that now. I would never eat like random leftovers that someone else had put out. But I'm the first one that would be like, box up that thing and let's give it to a homeless guy. And like, I don't know why I'm okay with that, but not the other way around.
Right. But at least there's man to man. Like, here you go, sir. Like, you're not just. This is like maids cleaning out a room, and it was. Just,
I don't go, here you go, sir. I just leave it on top of the trash or something.
Oh. Okay, here's the next one.
I'll find it.
Here's the next one. So then the next day, I go, hey buddy, I brought some apples. That's the thing I'm trying to do. Bring a little. So I'm not starving. So, I brought 4 apples, 3 red, 1 green.
You diversified. You got a bunch of different little apple gang going there.
Yeah. Country bumpkin activities. No. So I go, hey, you want? I called his room. I go, hey man, I got an apple. You want? I go, you.
Don't ever text me that for the remainder of your life.
Never stay home for your price of apples.
I will ghost you like you wouldn't believe if you start sending me.
Hey, Mike, I got an apple.
I got a bunch of apples and some tater tots, and
So I asked him, I go, you want a red one or a green one? First of all, Mike, if I were to ask you that, what would you say?
Green.
What would you say, Mike Pye?
Green, yeah.
And why? They taste better?
They taste much better.
Yeah.
They're a little bit more tart.
Ideally, I'd go with a Honey Crisp if I'm choosing.
I love Honey Crisp.
Of apples.
Me too.
But between a red apple and a green apple, I'm going green.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because I was like, I like green the least, and I thought, well, screw, I'm gonna give it to him. So I go down there and
Have you had a grapple yet?
No, what's that? A grape
hybrid
apple?
Grape apple.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
The Honeycrisp ones are good.
Those are for whatever.
Yeah.
For who?
Yeah.
You know who. For you.
So I
For big dumb bodybuilders to eat.
I want my muscles to look like an apple, my bicep.
Carbohydrate.
yeah. So they
Honey anything is... We're just getting
a
out of
name.
control
It's
with honey.
dude, they had honey butter at the restaurant next door. It was
That's
so
good stuff. Yeah.
They make it there too, they said.
Gross.
Gross.
Now it sounds like lascivious way.
Yeah.
Like
Here's
we make
the
our own honey butter.
What you doing later?
Yeah.
No, so then I go to
Honey butter all over myself. That's something. That's something.
Are your hands sticky from that little honey butter? So I go to his room and I go, and I go, hey Brian, I got your apple, and I look, and then he goes, and he had like four.
Brian, I got your apple.
He had 4 bananas spread out on his dresser, and so I make a joke. I go, you're holding out on me. And here's what he said. He goes, no, dude, I went jogging this morning. I found those 4 bananas on the side of the road.
Yep.
And then I gave him that look like, what the hell, dude? Like, and he goes, no, it's safer than the pizza. He goes, they're wrapped in banana skin.
Yeah.
So let me ask you
I
guys
think
these.
Brian needs more than a shout out.
Yeah.
I think he may need an intervention. You can't be eating street food.
By the way, if you guys want to see Brian Swinehart, go to my YouTube channel. We did a live together. So you'll see me and Brian Swinehart doing a live, and he's a funny dude. Mike Pye, would you pick up bananas from the side of the road and take them to your hotel room?
No, but I also think you need to pay Brian more when you're traveling with him so he can afford at least some fruit and not have to do roadside bananas.
Basic. And what hotel are you staying in? A lot of them have like just a bowl of fruit at the front.
Yes, I know. Free fruit.
He doesn't
Right.
need to be doing this.
Yeah.
Would you pick up bananas from the side of the road?
It's like free apples. Screw that noise. I'm going to go get some street bananas. That's just ridiculous.
I know. Would you pick up a banana?
No, because I'm not a monkey. That's just such a dumb.
I know, because even on a farm, right? Like on a farm, you pick something from a tree. You're not gonna. I wouldn't pick it up off the ground necessarily.
No, especially bananas. That just seems like such a weird thing.
Yeah.
It's unnatural.
How did they get there?
Yeah.
I know, and especially because it's like a border town. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if it's drug paraphernalia being. I don't know. Who knows?
I don't
Smuggled
like
in.
the
And then
whole
Smuggled in.
the whole operation.
And where would you smuggle a banana?
Well,
You know.
That's the problem.
I found 4 of them. No.
Right.
Yeah.
like the honey apple.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, these are dumb questions because I feel like nobody would do that. I mean, but there are people that do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dumbasses.
Well, like you've heard of the term freegans, right?
No.
Those are people that dig through dumpsters to find food.
Oh, wow.
And they'll go to like a Whole Foods, they'll go to actual places
Whoa.
that throw away stuff a little early, or like the expiration date is today, and they'll throw away bread. So then they dig through and then they pull this stuff out, and it's free good food.
Yeah, this honey butter's good for at least 7 more days.
They make it fresh.
It's one thing if you're like I was gonna say if not when you were in college, not when you're starving. We're talking about like today, like if you were on the road as a comedian.
No. I'm not. Why would no? What a stupid thing to
I
do.
know. I would never do that. I don't know why. I was shocked. That's why I was like, dude, I am shocked right now. Okay, here's another thing he did. One time we were at Cracker Barrel, because I love Cracker Barrel, and we're talking, and his butter slid off his bread, and he just kept talking and just kind of wiped the table with it and just kept eating. I wouldn't do that. Would you do that, Mike?
No, I would not do that. I would ask for more butter. I'd be like, hey, look, we've all been here. I dropped my butter.
Yeah.
Can I have a new butter? And if they said no, I would smear it on them. I would be like, well, F you then.
Yeah.
I wouldn't smear the bread onto the table on the butter, but I might use a knife to pick the butter up off the table and then continue to use the butter.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I'm a pro-germ person. I'm a big germ exposure. I'm a big fan of germ exposure. I think it makes your immune system
where a
stronger.
Restaurant washcloth goes.
Yeah. Yep.
Nope.
Yep. Tastes the same.
What about that? Yeah.
Enjoy
What is
your
it? The
cholera.
3-second rule or whatever?
Yeah, kinda like that.
Fell on the ground and God made dirt and dirt don't hurt, and I put it in my mouth and I made it work. Your turn.
Nope. I would not do anything of the kind.
All right, I think we'll wrap up then, man. Unless you guys have a question for me or something.
Tired of this germ-covered table that we're at. There is a long hair right next to your recording equipment.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Put that on some butter.
Yeah. Ew. See, that's what I'm saying. What if you like wipe that up and it was in your?
Yeah, that is the kind of thing that's on these tables, and people are wiping butter off of them, eating it.
No, not people. Brian Swinehart.
Brian Swinehart specifically.
Getting a shout out, but
yeah.
All right, guys. I guess that's it, man.
We're all pulling for you, Brian.
Yeah. And thank you guys for
going to pay you more.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the
Stop eating
Pocket
Street Fruit
Party podcast. And follow these guys. Do you want them to follow you, Mike? Where would they follow you if they were to follow you?
2 spots. Coach Quads is my fitness Instagram, and Mike Pie Comedy is my comedy Instagram.
Mike Black is back, all one word, Instagram.
Thank you, guys. All right, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you. See you.
You guys want to go eat again?
Yeah, go back in.
Let's go behind Bob's Big Boy's dumpster and see if they have any.
There's some good stuff in there. Some half-eaten waffles and whatnot.
Everybody listen to Darren Carter. We all know he's the party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, then listen to the Pocket Party.